Alrighty then, it's time for a Jungle Mordekaiser game. Yes, it's Mordekaiser. Which one? And is he good or is he bad? Well, I think you know the answer to that. It's really bad. Fun fact is that his old form, before the rework, was better at the jungle than he is now. And he's really bad at jungling in his old form, so consider that into this whole, debacle. Anyways, he's really fun to play. For those who don't know, Mordekaiser was one of those champions I used to play a ton if I was ever forced to lane. He was one of my go-to champions. He would punish people for getting really cocky and just smash entire enemy teams. Like, you could do some really stupid shit because he was genuinely a broken character. He was arguably the most broken character in the entire game because he was the only one who could reward you for losing. Because, oh look, the enemy team is super fed and you managed to kill one. Well, now their super fed carry is going to slaughter his team. So and so on. He could pull victories and miracles out of his ass. He was virtually unplayable though because of his range and whatnot. And he's still pretty much unplayable in a lot of aspects aside from, occasionally stomping somebody. But, he's fun to play. Generally one of my favorite heroes to play in the game. Just I kind of wish they would, I don't know, rework him again, or at least kind of, I don't know, make him choose what they want to do with him. Because right now, you remember in the Juggernaut form, they wanted to make him a substitute AD carry for bottom lane, and that completely fucked with him. Either way, you can see this game is kind of slow, and what am I supposed to do as Mordekaiser except to kind of walk up to people and hope they stand still enough for me to hit them in the face? It's kind of the gist of it, so Jungle Mordekaiser, or Mordekaiser in general, the best bet you got is to you get that Hextech belt that shoots you forward, and hope you can, I don't know, kill some guy who gets super low and ghost them, or they just decide to fight you for some reason and not realize that Mordekaiser is really strong in 1v1. So yeah, that whole thing at down bottom lane was pretty goddamn sad. We just kind of kept trading kills, and we came out behind on this one. Syndra ended up dying at the very end, and I think I think one more of my teammates ended up getting killed too, so it's really a bad situation down there, bad all around. But if you look at my team composition, we thrive on kind of just whipping out of victories out of our asses. If we get Twitch going, all hell breaks loose, and Mordekaiser, even if it's not as good as before, can still do the, oh look, I'm losing, but now I'm winning kind of shit. Right now, I'm just trying to farm up as much as possible, trying to get the belt over anything else. Get that goddamn belt so I can make up for some of my really shitty mobility and maybe actually kill some people. Hooray! So, if you already saw that, my sustain in the early phases is really bad. My clearing potential is really bad. Back then, it used to be really good when your W could just shred things without having to, cast it on an ally and being close to each other. So, yeah, I don't know. I've played Jungle Mordekaiser way more than you would think, actually. Like, whenever I'm playing with friends on Discord or something, I'll bust them out maybe one every other day. Just because it's really fun when you get going and you start blasting people. And you can't, even though I love champions like Jarvan and stuff, I can't play them a million times in a row. But yeah, it's a pretty slow game despite all that whole slaughtering that went down bottom lane. Come mid-game, once we start getting some items and we start going for objectives, because honestly, if you look at both team compositions, both compositions are really trash, except some powerful champion picks like Syndra and, and I guess the Poppy right now. So, some choice picks, but overall pretty floppy poor compositions. And yeah, one of the other weaknesses of Jungle Mordekaiser is that their W kind of has to be maxed out, and it's maxed out in order to clear efficiently, but it's not really good for anything else because you're not laning with it. In lane, you do max out your W to do some cool shit, or at least sustain yourself and hurt your opponent, but you don't get to take advantage of that, yet you still have to max it out. So, like, I've tried them in max out Q form, max out E form, max out W form, and sadly max out W is just kind of better because you clear safer. But when it comes to actually fighting, because you don't get to maximize your W's effect on your opponents, it's really gimpy. Anyways, this is about the only way Mordekaiser can gank. The enemy team engages really poorly, and you have some counter CC to grab them, and then you just kind of slowly crawl to them and try to beat them to death. For whatever reason, Jhin flashed, like, oh my god, the Mordekaiser CC is coming out, but The other cool sometimes thing that gets to happen is if you kill Dragon, you get to well, the Dragon Ghost, and it does not really get to do very much, you just kind of siege. Here we get Poppy shows up and she kind of starts wrecking shit. I thought at the time I could have just absolutely slaughtered everybody, and I kind of did. Killed Poppy thanks in large in part to the W, and one of the few moments that actually came in practice. And then my ghost absolutely destroys Jin. That's kind of fun. That's one of the fun bullshit parts about Mordekaiser back then, and still partially right now. Just your ghost is super powerful and super strong that it can match entire enemy champions. So imagine if you were falling behind and the enemy had a super fat Vayne and you get lucky enough to kill her once, you'll probably get yourself an ace just because on the back of that ghost. But yeah, you saw we stuck around a little too long and I got killed for it. So sad day for me. But finally, I'm getting my items and I'll be able to just start blasting people with my belt. It's about the only way I can approach anything at this point. You don't really, as Jungle Mordekaiser or some other champions, don't have to actually evolve your jungle item, although it might be recommended on some anyways, just for the extra sustain and for the actual smite buff. And in retrospect, I probably should have, just so I can have the blue smite and slow them down, but I was actually pretty far behind in terms of jungle farm or anything, because if there's one thing Jungle Mordekaiser wants to do or can do is farm a shitload and non-stop. It's just kind of farm it non-stop because you don't really have to worry about mana or anything. And I've been behind because I've been trying to force ganks. And if you guys remember the charts where I used to do for junglers, Mordekaiser was the only champion at that time that existed that I gave an F. So imagine trying to force ganks with an F-ranked ganker. It's just not gonna happen, and yet I kept doing it anyways, but whatever, was normal, right? So we get caught by Poppy when my teammate uses Flash to try to get away, and it just burns so much, and then it fails anyways. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, where some players, once they realize, like, oh crap, my first initial, my first volley of my abilities failed to grab somebody, I probably shouldn't, continue on or waste anymore. It's like, you don't have the means to actually capture anyone anymore. You just probably should give up. But yeah, once I got the belt, I could just get onto people and slow them down and just start punishing them. Here against the Poppy, it was kind of a little bit wasted, not entirely, because we at least get to push and she can't do very much. But I should have held it just in case, or I should have held it or not chased so far in case my opponents caught me and murdered me. The next item I'm going to be going for is Riley's Crystal Scepter, because I think even though it's not as strong as it was before, as Mordekaiser or as Jungle Mordekaiser especially, you need that added crowd control to actually do something. Anyways, the enemy team gets a Nautilus, a very good engage by him in the Twitch. The enemy team is forced to sort of scatter, even though they did get the Twitch. It's just not really enough to finish him off before they kind of get annihilated. So, yeah, it's a double kill for me, triple kill for me, and then we chase down Jin, or slowly try to chase him down. I believe my belt comes back in, and I really can't do very much. I use my W in the Maokai, and I try to get him to do something, and then we can't really dive him, and he chunks me for quite a bit. Now, old Mordekaiser, or at least when Spellvamp was a thing, was fucking beautiful. It's like, if they engaged you, and you had a sliver of health, all of a sudden you just can't die if they're fighting in your W. If you guys bother to, you guys can look up old clips of mine from the old Mordekaiser days, and you can see the dumbass shenanigans I could pull where I could actually fight a 1v3, and because the enemy team has no actual burst, I believe it was like New Vladimir and some shit, they couldn't actually bring me down, so I was just constantly sustaining myself just enough to just kind of like not die. It's like, it's absolutely beautiful how, or not beautiful, beautifully wicked how old Mordekaiser was and how much of like a bullshit champion he was. Remember, I firmly believe he was probably the most broken champion ever in history of League of Legends. Just a lot of people think, oh, the new OP is the most OP. No, sometimes, a kid itself can be more overpowered than the actual numbers the champion might have at the moment. Anyways, so for whatever reason, the enemy team super hyper committed to trying to kill a super tanky champion on my team, and they get punished for it. So we get kill a Poppy, Swain just kind of walks away, we give a little bit of a chase, but the enemy team shouldn't have been doing that. Like I said, both compositions are pretty janky, but what my team has is some serious murder power if we get going. Syndra, Twitch, and even Mordekaiser. Once Mordekaiser gets big, he gets big. the enemy team should kind of before this should have tried grouping up and tried, you know, just pushing for objectives or pushing for towers. I know some of their champions are pretty late game too, but theirs I feel is at least less clunky than mine. I mean, the combination of Leona Poppy is pretty damn great. Swain and Gangplank is a little iffy. Maybe just, you know, remove one of those for somebody else, and it would have been almost real perfect. My composition, on the other hand, is like all over the goddamn place. So, yeah, I think the enemy team in this case dropped the pooch. They were leading early on, but come mid-game, they kind of forgot or didn't realize what the strengths and weaknesses of both compositions were. So they keep kind of just focusing the wrong people, engaging, you know, without numbers, or using their abilities on the right people. Like, look, they knock me away, they use a shitload on the Nautilus, and then they just kind of have no real focus here. They do kill the Syndra, but at the same time they put themselves in a position where the rest of my team can punish them for that. They took so much damage to accomplish so very little, and they finally got something, a kill, but it cost them 4 of their lives. If you want to sort of rewatch that, how really haphazard it was, their entire engage. They had an upper hand where they could have possibly killed maybe 1 or 2 of my team, and they just backed off. After Nautilus had flash, or hell, they shouldn't have focused him in the first place. They should have, well, or at least they should have saved, you know, right abilities for it. They had a good chance. Anyways, we got the dragon. I was using it to fight the Baron, and the enemy team engages on us, and we managed to get the Baron too with it. It's like it's a very, very janky fight again. Some of us wanted to secure it because we were very paranoid for it, and the rest of my team was fighting. But it sort of showcased again that the enemy team doesn't have the communication they need to be having. I don't know if they were a 5-man, but they should have been saying, like, you know, let's engage now, let's disengage, or whatever. It seemed like half of them wanted to do one thing and the other half wanted to do the other, and their composition is just kind of designed to, you know, have that sort of communication or whatever. So we go in, easily destroy the Swain. We're super fat and tanky, so we kind of just take as many turret shots as possible and not necessarily die until the others get a little too damn cocky. Now we're forced to retreat, and then Jin aims his gun completely in the wrong direction, and then the rest of us slowly kind of die. I believe I get 2 escapes just because I got knocked away and just kind of waltz out of there. They give chase, but, you know, they're split up. It's a Leona and Poppy. If Maokai was sitting next to me, I would grind him to dust. You see my W. Thankfully, I'm able to heal myself quite a bit just with my other abilities. But, again, I feel if Maokai had just stuck around, we would have absolutely torn these two in a 2v2 to shreds, even if Maokai didn't have all the mana in the world. Like, Mordekaiser is one of those champions where if you take him lightly or you don't have the means to burst him down, he will fuck you up. But now that I have Rylines, and now that I have, I call it Rocket Belt, like, I can grab somebody important and really just beat them to death. The enemy team can kite me in 1v1s even, like Swain can probably fuck my day up. But anyone I grab, I'll probably murder at this point and make them a ghost to serve me eternally. Again, at this point, it's just sort of the enemy team kind of losing. It's not super eventful because, honestly, my team doesn't have a lot of kill potential or like a slaughter potential where you can, you know, kill some people and then push objectives, and then super late game, maybe Twitch can annihilate them. But as the current moment in the game, my team is just really fat, and we can get a lot of choice kills and force the enemy team to back off. That's where we were going, and the enemy team never really kind of responded properly to that. So we go in there, they kind of ignore Twitch, and he absolutely destroys them, and kind of turns it, I mean, kind of returns the tide for us. We start pushing again. You can already tell the timer on the video is almost over. The enemy team's kind of got no chance. Look at the kill spread in my team too. It's absolutely gorgeous. The Maokai doesn't have a lot. So it doesn't have the best spread, but you will support, and he's a type of support that kind of goes in there very flimsy and dies for it. But he was really on point with at least his ultimate and turning the tide of battle. Me and Nautilus are big and so beefy. We're not gonna die anytime soon unless we're super focused. And again, that's the wrong thing for the enemy team to do. And Syndra can almost one-shot anyone on the enemy team, and the Twitch is Twitch. You just annihilate them. This is just kind of everything going right for me or for my team, and the enemy team never doing anything to sort of upset that balance, and they lost because of it. We both had bad team comps, they had the better one, and they played it poorly.